Greetings, Earthlings! Before we start exploring, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, wherever you're listening. It helps more people find the show and supports our mission of making science accessible to everyone. You're here with DJ Stellar Cloud. Thank you for tuning in. DJ Lil Duo, aka Danny, is a PhD candidate in UCLA's statistics department, and he's also our speaker coordinator for the past at least 3 years, but from what I've heard, he's been on the EYU board for 4 years, so I'm really excited to hear about that. Why don't you get us started with how you got onto the board?
Yeah, thank you so much, Megan. Just want to say, first of all, I'm very, very excited to be here and be a part of EYU. Really, it's such a great experience for me. And it's a big part of my graduate career and graduate experience so far. When I first started, it was actually during COVID. I was a master's student, and I just saw an email about EYU sent out, I think by Abijah or something.
Yeah.
And I remember meeting up with Abijah online. She had an accident that year.
Yes.
So what really impressed me was just her resilience, and I said, wow, this is a very cool person, and I would love to work with her. I had no idea what EYU was. I wasn't that involved when I was an undergrad. So I did undergrad at UCLA and then a master's and then now a PhD. And I didn't really know EYU when I was an undergrad, so I didn't know about the scope of this event. And then I met Abijah, and she seemed to be very, very dedicated to this event. She brought me on.
Yeah. This is when it was on Zoom.
It was on Zoom. And I just started working with her. I had no idea what it was, except the fact that previous awards recipients included our Nobel Prize winners and just really, really famous people. So I thought, oh, wow, this is actually a big deal.
Celebrity moment.
Yes.
First celebrity moment in LA.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't realize you had been at UCLA since undergrad. So how many years have you been around?
This is my 8th year,
wow.
actually. Yeah.
That is so lucky. I love being here so much. I'm always thinking I'd love to graduate, but I also never want to leave.
Yeah.
So I think it's really nice that you've been able to really grow a home here and be happy here.
Yeah. I'm very grateful, and I think our department of statistics is part of a big reason why I feel very at home here. And getting to do events like EYU also just made it very, very meaningful experience for me.
Yeah.
Especially for the past 4 years.
Yeah. So what about that email really caught your eye? So there's the celebrity factor, but what about actually being on the board? Because most of the time we're not doing something glamorous.
Yeah. I think it was just I wanted to be a part of the community and serve. And during COVID, there weren't that much going on.
That's true.
And
yeah. Abijah really kept EYU going through COVID, which is crazy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Basically, there's nothing else other than EYU, and I thought, hey, this is an opportunity. It seems to be across departments.
Yeah.
So I really like that aspect of it, getting to meet with other people in other departments, because as grad students, it's really easy to fall into your little fields.
Yeah.
And even with the same department, it's really easy to be isolated just because the nature of research. So having an opportunity to go across department at this scale, as well as during COVID, it was something that I wanted to do and attractive to me.
Yeah, that's wonderful. What role did you fulfill your first year in 2021?
Yeah. So when I first joined, based on my understanding, actually EYU is split into 2 big components. One is the booth, and one is what they call the speaker and Q&A sessions.
Okay.
There was speaker sessions where we just have speakers and then it's just a talk. But there's also a Q&A session where they just invite faculties and just give Q&As. I think the draw was that faculties are usually busy.
Yeah.
So instead of asking people to prepare something for the kids, they just say, hey, can you devote some of your time? Especially if faculties.
An Ask Me Anything.
Exactly. Ask Me Anything. It could be whatever. I think Dean Miguel did a Q&A.
Yeah.
A Spanish
session. Big fan
session.
of Dean Miguel. In Spanish?
Yeah. Spanish session. The year prior.
Okay.
Because it's kind of like a lower commitment type of thing.
Yeah.
You just go there and do Q&A.
Yeah.
So I did the speaker, and Glenn did the Q&A.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got to get Glenn on the podcast one of these days.
Yeah.
I'm a big Glenn fan too.
Yeah, same here. Yeah, he's been putting a lot of work.
And then so you kind of took the speaker role that used to be on Zoom and it got translated to real life by 2022. What was that like? Was this your first EYU in person?
Yeah, it was very interesting.
Yeah.
On the speaker, when it was online, you just felt like it's another class.
Yeah.
You know, you see the kids, but it's really cute. Like, I remember the kids were just in little screens, and then they're like standing up. You know, they don't really know how to use the devices, so the parents will open up the device for them. And it's like a class where like the kids are just bouncing around and not muting themselves, so they were just speaking whatever.
That's so funny.
Yeah, it's the cutest thing.
Yeah.
But when it's actually in person, you can see why this is something that's exciting for the kids.
Yeah.
It's just so different. I remember when it was online, I had a session with Professor John Arnault.
Oh, yeah, from the Spin Lab.
Yeah, from the Spin Lab, and he was explaining to the kids why the Earth magnetic fields changed. Right?
Oh, like the poles flipping?
The poles flipping,
Okay.
and he used magnets. He did a little demo, and the kids were so shocked by that. But then the second year, he actually did it in person, so people can come up, people can ask questions.
Yeah.
And you see the kids too, and the kids see the scientists. It's not just like a screen of someone doing some experiment somewhere.
Yeah.
But just being there, being in person, and seeing the scientist live, it's a very different experience.
Yeah, definitely. There's nothing like being up close and personal with science. It's like close-up magic. But anyway, there's this joke I usually make where if you want to contact your advisor as a grad student, there's like a 2 to 3 business day wait. Maybe you can get like a 10-minute Zoom with them if you're lucky. But EYU is so unique in that we bring all these faculty members and they get like one-on-one time with the kids basically.
Yeah.
And they're there for a long time. It's super personal and it's just a wonderful experience. Like I never got to do anything like this when I was a kid. And so it makes me really excited to bring this to other people. Who has been your favorite speaker so far? Are there any standouts?
Man, there's so many.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, you've managed like over 50, maybe 100 speakers.
Really hard to say because each speaker has their own unique thing. I mean, I can list a few different types of styles.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I think first thing that came to my mind is Dr. Rick Kainer.
Oh, yes.
He has a style that's very, very unique, I think. He does a session called Fun with Plastic, which allows kids to be very interactive with this talk. And that's something that I think works very well with that session. He would often invite the kids up in the front of the class and then do demos because plastic, you can touch them. So he would instruct the kids on what plastics are, what are polymers, and he would do some experiments. And one of the experiments, you can see him putting different liquids together and suddenly it blow up like a plastic, like a milkshake.
Oh, I know about this. It's like the elephant toothpaste.
Kind of like that, yeah.
Yeah, because it's one of the hazards that the events office always asks us to look out for.
Yes.
But things are done very safely during Professor Kainer's talk, and apparently they're very exciting.
Yeah.
What about any like funny things that a kid has asked a professor in front of you?
Yeah, I would say there's so many questions that actually you'd be surprised that middle schoolers and high schoolers and elementary schoolers that you'd be surprised at the level of depth of their thinking.
They're really thinking about it when they're listening to the talk.
Yeah, and they ask questions that makes me think, wow, yeah, I haven't thought of that before.
Yeah.
I remember some of the questions even encouraged the professors because they thought, oh, wow, like this is a 10-year-old asking this type of questions. You know, we really, I think, oftentimes makes me think of we forget the curiosity of being a kid, right? As we're kids, we assume that the world is something that we don't know. There's so many unknowns, so we ask so many good questions. But now, I think there's so many things that we just think that we know about the world, and we actually forget about these questions. So in terms of questions, I actually think we can learn a thing or two from the kids and what kind of questions they ask.
Yeah, I mean, during the day of, you get to like actually hang out in the room and you get to see the kids, and that must just be really fun. I was in there for like 25 minutes and it was just a joy watching all the kids run around and chase the professor around to keep asking him questions. I remember that my professor, Jean-Luc, was trying to leave the stage. His talk was over, and these kids just swarmed down from the audience to follow him around and keep asking him questions. So I think it's just like an amazingly rewarding experience. And you personally have had a really big hand in optimizing these speaker sessions. Do you want to talk about some of the advancements you made to our speakers?
Yeah, of course. So I think speakers are so used to talking in front of a academic audience.
Yeah.
Where we use kind of professional words, and we want to make sure that we bring things that are sophisticated and new and novel.
Yeah.
But that's not what the draw for the kids are.
Yeah.
Kids want to see something that just surprises them. They want to feel something. They want to experience science. And they want to see what they actually just want to do and see is things that they see on TV but in person. So,
I love that. Feel things and experience science.
Yeah, that excites them.
Yeah.
And actually, some of our most common and popular talk was this one time, this group, an undergraduate student group actually called MRS.
Okay.
They did a liquid nitrogen ice cream sundae.
Is this Materials Research
Society?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We love to have them back, by the way.
Yeah.
But they were just doing ice cream, and they're making ice cream out of liquid nitrogen.
Yeah.
And so many kids showed up, and well, granted they wanted ice cream, but also it's really cool to see how to make something day to day using science. And that actually inspired us to ask ourselves, how can we make things that are understandable for the kids so they know what they're coming to, and that highlights elements of surprise, elements of novelty, elements of just good scientific experience, right? That could make the kids feel something new.
Yeah.
So this past year, we try to do that with our titles. Maybe if we look at the kind of talks, we try to ask ChatGPT actually, hey, can you make this more kids friendly? So one title was talking about batteries, and ChatGPT suggested like Zap, right? Zap, charge up, battery talk. The kids really like that.
I like that too. It's fun. But I think it's just like important to say that it's not enough to have been a good speaker to be a good EYU speaker. It's about making the science accessible and exciting to really fulfill our purpose of bringing science to the community.
Exactly. Yeah, I would say so. So. It's not about like how well we deliver. It's about how excited we just make the kids feel. Because in 10 years, chances are kids will not remember the scientific facts.
That's true.
But they remember how science makes them feel, how cool it is, and how they can see themselves in the room doing science.
And how good the ice cream tasted.
Oh, that's definitely a big factor.
Did you get to try the ice cream?
There's too many lines. I did not get to beat these kids in line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The speaker sessions have really grown over the years. How many speakers did we have back in the Zoom era, if you remember?
Yeah, I think because it's speakers and Q&A, maybe we have 6 or 7 speakers.
Oh.
Just because there's a Q&A session.
Yeah.
But we kind of thought that the Q&As are nice, but what are people gonna ask? Like, I think it might be more effective to combine them. So now the Q&A and speakers are combined together with 50% in a single session, 50% speakers and 50% Q&A.
Yeah, I love that format. Was it your idea?
I don't know. Naturally, it just becomes like that.
That's true.
So now we have this past year, we had about maybe 15. We have more people sign up, but we hosted 15 just to make sure that each of them are quality. The speaker sessions really have a very variety of range.
Yeah.
Thanks to the variety of research that's done at UCLA, our advertisements kind of from the smallest molecule, we have people talking about nano on the nanoscale.
Yeah.
To space, like to galaxies, and from in terms of Earth, from the deepest part of the sea, we have people coming from sea trips, deep sea dives.
Yeah, that's Tina Troida with the Blue Planet.
Yeah. To the highest point of the sky and tracing back from everything from AI to the birds, like
we had a new bird speaker this year from evolutionary and ecological biology.
Yes So it's really a very diverse session now, that there's everything that people can come to and try to learn something new. I
love how you explain that, like from the edges of the universe and the earth and the size scales. That's so beautifully put.
Yeah, thanks to all the researchers here at UCLA. Just shows how wide, I guess, the research scope of the physical sciences and life sciences are.
I feel like working here, you kind of forget like how amazing the school is with how much like diverse research is going on and how awesome this research is. And it's like really exciting too. Like it's hard to go to one of these talks and not be like, I'm going to switch and join that lab group. This talk is so interesting.
Yeah.
Do we have a stats speaker yet?
We did. So we were working on that. We were working a few years ago. I mean, we have a stats speaker each year.
Oh, okay.
But the challenging part about stats is a little bit hard to make the kids feel like science is very exciting with statistics. I think it's exciting. I love it.
Yeah.
It's just how can we do that? So we're working on that. I mean, right now machine learning AI is something that everyone cares about. So maybe we can do something like that in the upcoming years.
Yeah. Are machine learning and AI big in the stats department?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about the stats department, so feel free to educate us.
Yeah, I would say statistics really came from trying to answer questions arising in the sciences. Actually, it's existed all the way in the past when we need to take census, right?
Oh, yeah.
If we take census, we need statistics.
Yes.
And in modern day statistics, over 100 years ago, there's someone called R.A. Fisher. He's the father of modern statistics, and he was working on agriculture. And there's a lot of problem that arise to that in terms of how can we best grow crops, and how can we use experiments to make sure that we can analyze the crops. So that comes kind of statistics with ANOVA and things like that that we see nowadays. And then it gradually evolved to different era of statistics. Currently, there's a lot of diverse research in statistics now. We have Bayesian statistics. We have
I'm learning
machine
Bayesian
learning.
statistics right now, and it's
Great.
It's really difficult, but like now seeing this, I'm like, oh, this is the only correct way to do statistics. Like I don't know what I was reporting in my previous papers.
Hey, there's two big groups of thoughts. One is Bayesian, one is frequentist.
Okay.
And
I haven't gone to frequentist yet. I'm taking my first stats class ever.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Which one?
It's a stats class for my department, for the Earth, Planetary, and Space Sciences department, taught by Professor Bjorn Benneke, specifically how do we apply the two main methods of statistics to the research that we do here.
Yeah.
Because nobody here knows how to do it very well.
Okay, well you can come to us. Yeah, we have consulting and everything.
But, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
could you plug that a little harder for us?
We have a consulting center in our statistics where everyone can just come and it's free of charge.
Wow.
They take your question. They do some consulting for you. It's usually PhD students.
Yeah.
And if you need a longer contract and longer project, you can discuss with the consultants.
Dang,
It's
that's
managed.
really cool.
Yeah, it's managed by Dr. Natasha Sfandiari and Dr. Vivian Liu. So
okay.
yeah, it's on our website.
Yeah.
But
that's like statistics.ucla.edu or
yeah, something like that. Stats UCLA. But really, statistics is very interdisciplinary.
Yeah.
I mean, it just comes from the different scientific problems. For example, in space science, earth science, and I'm sure there's a lot of data in spatial statistics, right?
Yeah,
We have a lot of spatial statistics here. In terms of biology, there's a lot of biostatistics type of problems. With machine learning AI, the foundational things that's motivating them is our statistical tools. It's just that we have so much computing now that we can make it work.
Yeah, because I'm aware that the history of machine learning dates back to like several decades ago. We just didn't really have the processors to apply these principles to the big data sets that we have now.
Yeah.
So what got you into statistics?
That's a great question. I was an economics undergrad.
Oh, finance bro.
Yeah, I tried to be a finance bro. However, I took a stats minor, and it was actually our department and how our department is that really got me into statistics. UCLA is a big place.
Yes.
It's really hard to find where you belong in your community and find a good community that helps you grow. So I'm grateful that our department of statistics, that it's one of those communities. Specifically, Professor Dr. Christo, he actually hosts a booth every single year.
That's right. This is our only stats booth. Yeah. Shout out to Dr. Christo.
Yeah, he hosts this booth that it's like a maze, and then we calculate the probability of how many trials they can take out of the maze. But yeah, he taught me statistics, and I really am inspired by his teaching, really, and how this department is. And statistics is intuitive to me. So he encouraged me to continue with the master's program here. It was COVID, and
so you met him during undergrad?
Yeah, during COVID.
Oh, wow. That's very lucky.
I am, very, very lucky. And he's just been a mentor that guided me through this process. He encouraged me to continue with PhD and encouraged me to continue on academia route. I would say that's a big reason why and a big draw for me. Just the people and people that really pour into your life, mentors. And he's a great mentor of mine.
I cannot emphasize enough how much having a great mentor has like shaped my academic journey, and even just like my desire to stay in academia, to like feel like you belong somewhere, and then to have somebody of a higher status like look at you and say like you belong here.
Yes, exactly. I think research is very, very important. Definitely. It's interesting, but at the end of the day, it's work is work. And other than work, there are so many things that are more important than just work itself. Community and how we are loving each other, right? How we're treating each other, how we appreciate each other, how we're giving back to others. All these things are also important too. And I'm grateful to be in a position where I feel like these things are also getting taken care of other than just research.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Okay, so you met Dr. Christo in your undergrad, and he inspired you to stay for your master's here and switch into statistics out of UConn.
Yes.
What was that change like for you? Because you were sort of on this path of like wanting to go into finance, and then you're like, now I'm going to be an academic.
Yeah, I think this is a big draw actually for me in the science. I think finance is great. There's just something about science and discovering the world that we live in.
Yeah.
Explore your universe, right?
Yes, literally exploring your universe.
Like understand more about the world that we live in so that we understand where we are. That process is very humbling for me, knowing, the world is so much larger than we are.
Yeah.
And also interacting with students. That's something that's very, very different from finance. I get to TA and pour into other people's lives the same way that other mentors have poured into my life.
Yeah, passing it on,
and it really encourages me so much when I see people who are driven, who want to work hard, and who just have a desire to learn. Last quarter, I was TAing someone, and then they told me, hey, I was TAing with Dr. Christo. So that girl told me, hey, I really enjoy industry and internships. But I don't really know why I'm doing all this. I'm just doing it because other people are doing it.
Yeah. But
I find that actually doing research is something that I really appreciate and I personally like. Yeah. So she said, hey, I might look into a master's program. Can you give me some advice on that?
And you were like the perfect person to ask.
Well, thank you. I'm grateful to be in that position. But I just think that, it's so true that so many times we try to do something just because other people are doing it, or that's what we're expected to do. But then once in a while someone come to us and say that, hey, look, have you considered doing something else that you're more passionate about? And they see something in you, and you try to take that path. And fortunately that's something that happened for me in my career, and so many others around us too. I see that people are finding passion in learning about science and doing science and chasing after that. Sure, it's very different, and this is a pretty hard route because you don't know, in research, you don't know what's going to work or not. Yeah. But also, this is very exciting. This is something that a lot of other fields don't bring you.
Yeah. So what about statistics got you like super passionate? Like, what's your niche in statistics that continues to drive you today?
Funny that you ask. Actually, I don't really do a lot of machine learning. I do experimental design with Dr. Hongquan Xu. So I would say I'm a pretty relational person. He's a good friend of Professor Christo. Okay. And Dr. Christo recommended, hey, why don't you try to do some research with Dr. Xu? And I did. And I really...
Is this in master's or undergrad?
That was my master's.
Okay.
And I did research with Dr. Xu for like a year. And I just see that he's a very good mentor and a very patient mentor. I think for 20-something years old, most people around us, their grad students are around 20-something. Yeah. Personally, I think this is such a stage that's important for us, that fosters the rest of our lives. It's really important to choose who we're learning from and where we're learning from. And personally, I find that learning from him, he is very, very experienced, and he has a really strong personal character. And he's very responsible. And he's a great mentor. He's very patient too. Learning from him is something that I think not only is good for research, but also just developing a strong character. And that's something that is a very big draw for me, just because I would love for this to be a long run thing.
Okay.
You know?
Like stay in statistics research and experimental design.
Yeah, in academia in the long run.
Yeah.
Not just chasing after the hype. But in order to do that, it's important to have a strong character. It's important to think about problems in a long-term perspective.
Yeah, be an ethical scientist.
Yeah, exactly. And then that's what drives me is in this field, experimental design. It's a long field. It's something that's been here since R. Fisher is here, and it will continue to be here. And that's something that draws me to just explore, understand, and being in it for the long haul.
So I've never heard of experimental design before. Could you explain it a little bit?
Yeah. So experimental design, in science, we discover a lot of things through hypothesis. We try to make some hypothesis saying that, hey, we are seeing the world, maybe there's no hypothesis and there's an alternate hypothesis. No hypothesis is the world is this way. But then we say, what if we have a drug? Then would it cause the world to be different? And that's our alternate hypothesis. Now, the issue of that is a lot of times it's hard to actually determine whether this drug works. Okay.
Before it's deployed.
Yeah, or after it's deployed, it's hard to say like, hey, what if I only give drugs to these people who are already healthy versus these people who are not healthy?
Yeah.
Then is it the effect that people are healthy, or is it the fact that the drug? So that's why experiments are so important, is that it's only in this controlled experiment environment that you have the gold standard of determining the effect of whatever you want to administer.
Yeah.
Now, this can be applied to drugs in the pharmaceutical sense. It can be applied to policies in the governmental sense. It can apply to engineering in the industrial sense. There's experiment happening everywhere.
Yeah.
And the field of experiment design try to find the most efficient experiments, because these are good ways to determine whether something works, but the problem is that they're very expensive. Think about manufacturing a drug, having the equipment and then having the accurately getting all the pieces right. It costs a lot of money and it's very expensive. So experiment design is a discipline that make this process as cheap as possible so that we can produce more drugs and that are beneficial, so that we can produce more processes if it's in engineering that would improve the industrial sense, so that we can be the most confident in the maybe policy sense of something, whether it works or not. That's the gist of the motivation that we study. Currently, because of AI and then computer, we have a lot of experiment that's done on computers.
Yes.
You might have heard of A/B testing. That's an experiment in tech companies marketing. Right?
Oh, when you have like two different versions of the same thing and you see what does better.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's the fundamental.
I use this on the EYU advertisements.
Perfect. See, you can hire people like statisticians to help you streamline that.
I think it's very unsurprising to me that you're sort of in like the ethics of stats, like under the big umbrella of stats, you pick the field that's like really ethics focused of like, how can we make these experiments efficient, harm the fewest amount of people, and like really make sure that people are doing science the right way.
Thank you, Megan. Yeah. I'm lucky to stumble upon this and have an advisor that really guides me.
Yeah, that's wonderful. How did you get to UCLA? Where were you from before this?
Yeah, actually, I was from China. I was born there, and I grew up there for about 12 years, and then I came here in SoCal. I came to UCLA. I was choosing mainly between Berkeley and UCLA when I was an undergrad.
Okay.
I visited Berkeley. I visited UCLA. And I think I was just very rebellious. In China, Berkeley is a big name.
Yes.
And my dad really wanted me to go to Berkeley
because
because this is very big name.
Yes.
But when I came to UCLA, something about the school just different. It's very sunny.
Yeah.
People seem excited about studying, about the school.
The people here are happy.
Yeah. People here are lively. When I went to Berkeley, I just thought if I were to go to Berkeley, it'd probably be for my dad. at the time. But now I see that Berkeley has a lot of good things and it's a great institution. But back then, because of my rebelliousness, I chose UCLA over Berkeley. And actually, it turns out to be the perfect decision for me because of where I am now. So I'm not regretting. Just recognize that I can be very rebellious. So if you're a student listening to this, I think there's a lot of wisdom in listening to the older generations and listening to what they have to offer.
Yes. We're not just blathering on for our health. We genuinely want the best for you when we give you advice. Berkeley does not have an Exploring Your Universe, so that is the main reason to choose UCLA.
They don't. Yes,
but
definitely.
You don't strike me as somebody who was rebellious as a child. I find that very fascinating, and that brings us to our last question. If you were a child at Exploring Your Universe, what would you have wanted to hear from one of the volunteers or even a speaker?
I would just want to hear from volunteers that, hey, you're smart, you can do it, you belong here.
Yeah.
That come back next year and actually come back for college.
Yeah.
I think a big thing for me when I think about institutions is when you're in middle school, high school, there's certain institution that seems out of reach and out of touch, right? I was listening to the story of someone saying that they're living next to U Chicago. I think it might be Michelle Obama. She said she lived next to U Chicago, but just because the prestige of the institution, she didn't feel like she can ever get in. And I hope that's not the case for us, UCLA and EYU. There's so many talented kids in our community, but they think UCLA is something that's out of touch.
Yeah.
Maybe in their minds, only people of the highest rigor goes to UCLA. While it's true that this is a place that performs excellence, but I don't think this is out of touch for people. And if I were a child, I hope that someone can just come alongside me and say, hey, that was a great question, and I think you belong here, because it goes a long way. And I would think the same for the people who they are asking a lot of good questions, and I would just want people to actually believe that they belong in higher education. They can be the next generation scientist. Now, not everyone have to go through PhD and do research, but everyone can be a part of the scientific community and appreciate science and approach a scientific perspective about life, about understanding where we're from, understanding the world around us, and trying to live in a way that's accordant to that.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, you hear folks, science is for everyone, UCLA is for everyone, and EYU is definitely for everyone.
It definitely is.
Do you have any final thoughts about EYU, about yourself?
Yeah, I would just like to offer one story about EYU, actually. It's so encouraging to me. Two different incidences. One is a volunteer. So this volunteer came to me, I think, a couple years ago. And he told me that when he was growing up, he came to EYU. And then he, I think, graduated, went to universities. And now he's a graduate student or a postdoc. And now he's volunteering at EYU. And another story is with Professor Rick Kainer and also a lot of parents. A lot of parents, they come and then one of the parents told Dr. Rick Kainer, she said, hey, do you remember me? I took your class like 20, 30 years ago, and here's my kid. And they're bringing them to EYU.
Oh my gosh.
And yeah, I just think that's such a beautiful, beautiful moment to think that, beyond just a yearly event where we share this great research with the community, this has become something that brings people together. That this has become something that encourages community to give back to others. And it's transgenerational now, and that's such a beautiful thing to me, because I didn't get to have EYU as a kid, but I see how people are growing up with this and then giving to the next generation this experience. And I would say that I would encourage you, if you're listening, right, to be a part of this and to be a part of this experience, whatever you can do, whether it's attending, volunteering, or if you're UCLA, organizing and bring this initiative forward. This is such a beautiful experience that we get to be a part of. And it's my hope that we continue to use this opportunity as a light for others.
Yeah, 100%. I just wanted to say that you are the person who embodies what I think is the spirit of EYU the best. I mean,
thanks, Megan.
the way that you're putting all these thoughts into words is like so beautiful. I couldn't have done it better. I've been trying my best. If you see my emails, I'm always trying to encourage people like, this is what we're doing it for. It's because we need to make science accessible. There's no reason why science needs to feel like it's behind these iron bars, but often it feels like that because if you're living next to Chicago, you're like, Chicago is full of like only the elite people who are going to be out there discovering things. But you and I are proof that regular people like us are on campuses like UCLA discovering new things every day and exploring our universe.
Yeah, and it's great on both sides. It's great for people who attend, but it's also good for people who are doing research to see why we're doing this, right? I think sometimes it can be kind of disconnected. So it's great to see the big picture. And thank you, Megan. I'm just grateful for this opportunity to be on here.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. Where can people follow along with you?
Yeah, I would say maybe my website. It's under stats department. It's stats.ucla.edu/tilde Danny Duo Ying, DANNY DUOYING.
Yeah, so you can keep up with Danny's research on the UCLA website. Do you want anybody to keep up with you as a person?
Oh yeah, it's Danny Duo Ying, DANNY DUOYING on Instagram. Also my email, I read my email every day. It's dannyduoying@gmail.com, DANNY DUOYING.
Thank you for reading your email every day, by the way. DJ Lil Duo, aka Danny, has been such an instrumental part of helping me start to lead EYU this year, and I'm just so grateful for you. Thank you for joining.
Oh, thanks, Megan. It's an honor.
And with that, never stop exploring.